In third quarter of 2024, the internet went crazy over this strange response from ChatGPT. Apparently, it couldn't count the number of R's in strawberry. So this has become known as the strawberry problem. Hi, I'm Doc Ligot, and let's dive into this interesting chapter in large language models. So when the strawberry problem became widely known, there were a lot of discussions about why this happened. And there was a common explanation provided by some techie people. When large language models are pre trained, they learn by splitting up sentences into tokens. In this case, a token is a word. The models then learn from the typical sequences of these tokens in order to predict the next token after a series of words. Then the typical locations of a word in a sentence are captured into what we call embeddings. An embedding is basically a string of numbers that serve as, coordinates in a map that can put words beside each other. The closer the words are by their embeddings, the more similar in terms of meaning and context they are. So this visualization of the word manufacturing in an embedding space shows you the related words to manufacturing. And this is part of the building block of how models understand meaning that you put in your prompts. So back to strawberry. The explanation was strawberry was actually parsed as two words when it was tokenized, straw and berry. And this causes the confusion with the question. Sometimes the model answers one, referring to straw, or two R's, referring to berry. And for a while, people kind of said, okay, fair enough. There were other words like Mississippi. People were testing words about how many R's there are in other words. Now, before this thing became a viral issue, I was posting about my own problem, not about strawberry, but about tea in Rappler. How many T's are there in Rappler? So the word Rappler is not a combination word like straw and berry, and the letter T doesn't even exist in Rappler. But some reason, AI models were identifying the letter T. So the whole tokenization explanation for strawberry, it actually did make sense. So I shared this online. I tested all the models at that time. So this was Llama 3, 2Ts. Gemini, to their credit, refused to answer. Maybe it was just too confused about the question. This was Claude, 1T. Mistral even broke down the explanation, which was still wrong. So it spelled the word Rappler and identified the position of the two T's, which didn't exist. Perplexity said three T's, even provided some references. Actually, the references were a clue of what was actually happening. So what was this issue? So as you saw earlier, when GPTs or LLMs were pre-trained, they knew the relationship between tokens to predict the next word after a series of words. But in order to turn them into what we now know as chatbots, the developers had to turn sentence completion machines into question and answer machines. And the key to that was this thing called RLHF, reinforcement learning through human feedback. Basically, they ask humans to answer questions. And then those question and answer combinations were then fine-tuned into the GPTs at that time. And then later, the GPTs learned to rank the importance of every answer to such a point that it should be able to give you the most relevant answer. And that's what's now known as these language models. But that works for most inquiries. What if a question comes up that was never asked before or rarely asked before? So if we compare ours and strawberry, there's probably, if you think about it, a likelihood that this question comes up because there are R's in strawberry after all. But a T in Rappler, who asks that question? It was just so offbeat. I didn't even know why I asked. I just wanted to try it, see if AI was smart enough. But then now we are encountering two different cases. Strawberry is a case where the model mistokenized the word, and that creates all the misunderstanding. While Rappler is a case where the question is so rare, in fact, it may not even have existed in the past in its training. And in both cases, the models will try to guess at the best answer and get it wrong. This is what we now call hallucinations. Hallucinations are not really a bug. They are a weird output based on a wrong input. Short questions are highly at risk for hallucination because there's barely any context, no? Barely any word in the prompt that the model can use. And that's actually part of the learning that we got from this, experience. I remember Google was just releasing its first AI overviews at that time, no? 2024. And it had this really unhinged answer. It kind of said Rappler has 28 letters, including the T, which is the Filipino abacada. So the word Rappler was substituted for abacada. But then again, like the perplexity answer, the clue is this. There's actually an article on the Filipino alphabet in Rappler. So hopefully you're seeing where this is going. Copilot has similar experience. Not only did it get the answer wrong, said it has two T's, but then it also brought up a completely unrelated story about jeepneys as the mode of transportation, which was likely an article in Rappler itself. So is this still happening? I'm happy to report that yes, it is still happening, but not as common as the past. So let's have a quick browse through some of the current models and see how they've been doing. So let's check ChatGPT. Seems to be doing well. No T's in Rappler. Gemini finally answers. No T's in the word Rappler. Perplexity says there are two T's in Rappler. Uh-oh. And it even cites Wikipedia. I think this is the thing, eh? In terms of embeddings, if it can't find that question, it gets the nearest pieces of information, which are articles posted in the Rappler website, and then uses that as the basis. Although I doubt there are only two T's in the Rappler articles. Claude had an interesting response. First, it gets it wrong. There is one T in Rappler. Then it chains of thought its way through it. So the word Rappler is spelled Rappler, and the only T would be dot dot dot, and then it catches itself. Actually, there's no T at all. So let me correct that. So while it did correct itself, it's still very bizarre looking at it. This is DeepSeek. Let's count the T's in Rappler. No, 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 no. So there are zero T's in Rappler. So this is what Claude was doing, but DeepSeek got it in the first instance. Quen says zero. Meta AI goes two T's, girl. Okay. Grok, two T's. Uh-oh, but it highlighted the P's. So it's a phonetic mismatch. Again, tokenization could be at fault here. Copilot, zero. Mistral, one T. So Mistral can't catch a break. Poe says one T. And then I tried the Google AI overview. Unfortunately, it also says Rappler has one T. The Google search part is for me, the most concerning because this is probably the AI most people will see. And that's a problem if you think about education. So what does this all mean? Again, I've said this in the past. We should not see large language models as data retrieval in the traditional sense. So it's not getting actual information that matches your query. It's actually creating new information, but based on patterns it learned in the past. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is there is always a chance that the patterns are misinterpreted, like in the case of Strawberry or the case of Rappler. So for me, the most prudent approach is never rely on it as a sole source of truth until further notice. They're best, at least for me, used as a way to process known information. So you get a complicated piece of information, summarize it, simplify it, transform it using AI, or you can extrapolate new information from it, you know, something speculative like a brainstorm. Prompt engineering, or whatever, context engineering, as they call it now, is still the most important skill because that's the input. Large language models base the output on your input. So if your input is bad, the output will be bad. But understanding how bad prompts lead to hallucinations is essential, especially if we consider, as I'm encouraging, the use of LLMs in education. Because LLMs are already eating up education. And I think part of the solution is also to encourage better use of AI. And as I mentioned in another discussion, schools are not the first place students learn about AI. And finally, I remember when I posted about this back in 24, the most common reply was, what version of AI are you using? You should use the latest version. Well, as you saw earlier, I use the latest versions now and they still make mistakes. I think we should really stop hoping that future versions will fix this problem. It's hard to patch because the confirmation bias, if you're looking for a T in Rappler, the AI will be looking to confirm your bias. It wants to please you. That's really in the design of the models, the transformers themselves. It's not a bug. So unless the architectures change or the data changes, it's always going to be the case. So that's the strawberry problem and how hallucinations happen. LLMs are already normal, and so is hallucinations. It's just part of day-to-day life with AI. So for me, we have to know them, learn about them, deal with them. So like and share and comment below if you have additional insights. This is Doc Ligot, and I'll see you again in another video. Thank you very much.